We're live, Mark. Oh, that still gets me every time.
Oh
How you doing, Mark? Are you
man,
tired?
yeah, I am scuffling. My neighbor's dog was missing, so I just got inside from helping him get looking for his dog. Ain't found him yet, but
Oh, well, hopefully he'll find him soon.
uh, yeah. And then something with this link, I couldn't get on.
Yeah, who knows? But we're here now. We got it going, don't we?
I guess.
And tonight's show is if it don't fit, you must have quit. So are we talking about OJ or what?
Uh,
No,
no,
we're not talking about OJ.
we're not talking about OJ.
We're talking about evidence we've gathered out in the field, and some has taken us a while to debunk. Some we debunked and shouldn't have, but we've got some good evidence tonight. We've got some audio, some thermal, and some regular video, don't we?
Yes, we do. A little bit of all.
And also,
And you're
wait,
blurry.
I'm always blurry. It's something about this webcam. I don't know. It will focus on something besides my teeth, I think. I don't know. I look less blurry without my glasses. Anyway, we got a special guest here tonight with us. The man that started off with Mark Nebel before I kicked him to the curb. Ain't that right? No,
I'm
we
going to
didn't
take
kick.
him back.
Well, yeah, you might. We didn't
You
kick
keep
him to the
giving me
curb.
problems.
He just got busy with life. That's all. But anyway, let's bring on Mike McSwain. Hey, Mike.
What's up? My
How
two
you
buddies
doing?
right there. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good.
Good, good, good.
Mark, won't you talk about whenever you and Mike first met there a little bit?
All right. Well, I had gone to a conference um, in Arkansas, and Shelly and I, and she suggested that I get on Facebook and look for a group in Tennessee to join. And I told her, I said, well, I'd done that 9, 10 months ago, but I couldn't find nothing. She said, well, check again. And so I checked again and I found a group called EOTBF, Evidence of Tennessee Bigfoot. And so I joined, and a feller, the dearly departed Stacy Black, um, was the one that started the group. And he when I joined up, he told me, he goes, there'll be a guy named Mike McSwain come on here, and he will welcome you, and he lives near me. Well, come to find out, these guys live pretty close to me, and so I was wanting to go out at LBL, and so I contacted Mike, and he's a private investigator. So he's out of town a lot. And so when we got together, he said, well, I'll take you and I'll show you around LBL. He goes, I live in Paris, Tennessee, and that's really close. It's on the other side of the river, and I will show you every road up at LBL. So we we hooked up one day, and I'm driving up there, and most of y'all kind of know my personality and that I'm a practical joker. And so I'm talking to Mike, and we're going to meet in this parking lot. So I'm driving, and I talking to him, and I knew what I was about to tell him, I couldn't tell him till I was in the parking lot because I was afraid they'd pull off and leave me. So when I get up close to the parking lot, I tell them that I'm just a few minutes away and that I'm driving a 1972
You
Ford
did.
panel van,
He did
and
say that. He did.
and it's covered in Bondo, and it's about 6 different colors, and there's a donut tire on the front and one on the back. And I said, Mike, I said, where you're parked at, are there any bathrooms? And Mike said, yeah, there's a bathroom over here in this store. And I said, well, Mike, I am pushing 400 pounds. And when I get there, I'm going to need some bathroom help. And I'm parked over across the parking lot looking at him, ready to throw it back into drive and block him from pulling out of the parking lot. But Mike is just the nicest guy. And I don't know if he would have given me any bathroom help.
Nah.
But he wouldn't have ran off and left me.
No,
And so
I would have let Stacy do that.
It was an auto parts store, wasn't it? I'd have went and got a squeegee and handed it to him.
Yeah, I was thinking about one of them bathroom brushes, commode brushes. Or either that or follow me to the car wash.
Oh, man.
No, it was immediate chemistry, wasn't it, Mark? Immediately.
Yeah. Good times.
It really was. It really was. I was a fair weather squatcher at the time too. It's not like I was neck deep in it. So I was also learning at that time, big time. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't really been out in the woods looking for them. Yeah. So Mark, you kind of helped me. You introduced really me to really what squatching is. I had an encounter is what happened to me. And
that's what we want to hear, Mike.
Well, and everybody tended to go to the BFRO because that's what people knew. And I met Stacy through that. Turns out he lived 15 minutes from me. He could have lived in California, but it turns out he lived real close to me. And that's kind of how it started. He just decided to start his own thing, and it kind of went from there. And I started meeting a person here or there, the ETOBF started out with, I know. Evidence in Tennessee, but it started off with 1 or 2 people, and then it just grew. And Mark, you was in pretty quick, and Stacy and I had gone out and done a couple things. We ain't done much, I didn't know this guy all that well, and Mark come on pretty quick, and we clicked immediately, didn't we, brother?
Yep, we sure did.
We did. But I'm not going to sit and say I was some seasoned Bigfoot guy. I wasn't. I just had an encounter, and I was interested like everybody else, that has an encounter. It tends to pique your tends to pique your interest, and you kind of divulge into it, after that happens to you, So anyway, but I love this. I love this guy, and let me tell you, folks out there too. Not terribly long after that, these two were able to meet after that, and that means a lot to me, that the relationship y'all have now and where this has grown with you two.
Yeah,
I remember.
No, you don't.
Well, what I was going to say, if Larry was holding that phone right now, you'd see both pinkies sticking straight o'clock. But
these two right here now, they don't make them. They were meant to know one another, and I'm glad I was able to be a part of that.
I remember when you first met Larry, because
Yep.
we were camping off road by 19th century graveyard, and
Yeah.
you were going to come down there and sit with us around the campfire. I think that you had to probably head out to Illinois or somewhere the next day, but you came out and met Larry, and y'all hit it off right off the bat.
We
Yeah.
did. We did. Yep. And we haven't done a lots together in a long time, but you two will always be special to me. When you know what I mean. It was immediate friendships, no doubt about it.
Yep.
We
I
all
agree.
kind of thought, we thought a lot alike, the three of us. You know, we kind of operate on the same page. You
Yep.
know, no doubt.
You kept us in check though.
I did. I don't know about that now.
Well,
But
Mike.
everything happens for a reason, you know?
Oh yeah.
So,
Tell us real quick about your encounter you had that got you interested in this.
okay. Well, I don't know how much your folks are aware. I know LBLs sometimes, maybe a lot of y'all's go-to place. It's at least closer to home, right, for both of you. But you have the Tennessee River comes down, and you got the Cumberland River comes down out of Ohio River up in Kentucky, and they run parallel to one another. And I don't want to be like redundant to pick folks that all know this, but what LBL is they dammed those lakes, those rivers up years ago, made them into lakes. You got Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, and you got about 40 miles maybe from Grand Rivers, Kentucky at the north end of it down to Dover, Tennessee, about 40 miles of land between those two lakes. Nobody living in there. You know, you're talking about rugged. And the Kentucky Lake runs down on more, would be on the western side. And on the other side of the lake, you have a bridge on the south end there of LBL that on Highway 79 that crosses over Kentucky Lake into Henry, leaving Stewart County into Henry County. Well, Henry County is where I live. But that lake, if anybody knows about the Tennessee River, it continues onward and goes, actually works itself down into Alabama and actually up through and eventually up into Chattanooga and even up into Knoxville. Well, it's still the lake there where I live. And my cousin and I, his name's Greg, same last name, we're bass fishing on the opposite end of Kentucky. You know, the Kentucky Lake on the eastern end of shoreline of Kentucky Lake is going to border and run along land between the lakes. But on the opposite side of the lake, on the western side of the lake, we were fishing below the Paris Landing Bridge on what we were bass fishing one spring morning on what you would call the Big Sandy Peninsula. So by a crow flying from the south entrance of LBL, that wouldn't be a mile, maybe two. And we were flipping jigs in some buckbrush. And you just have no Greg. Greg's a no nonsense guy. The last thing on his mind is something crypto, you know, something out of the ordinary. And he's running. It's his bass boat. He's running the trolling motor. Went back in this little bay because he's an incredible fisherman. So you go with Greg, you'll catch some fish. And the water had already been up to summer pool enough. At least it was getting the spring late enough in the spring for the water to be up in the buckbrush. If anybody that's ever been down the LBL area around Kentucky Lake knows that when they drop it, there's no water in the buckbrush till it gets in the spring. So it had even had enough foliage growing in the trees area, so you really couldn't see deep into the woods at all. We're in there flipping these what they call I don't even remember now what they were, some kind of plastics, you know, bass fishing. And out of nowhere, I'm gonna guess this is probably, it might have been 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And then if you want me to explain a little bit more about the Big Sandy Peninsula, we can do that later. Mark's been on it. He's been there before. But it was certainly an area where there was no houses anywhere around. Actually, it was even getting toward an area you get down where it's a wildlife refuge. Out of nowhere, we get this guttural, vibrate in your lungs, roaring, something not happy we were there, growl at us that I could never explain. I won't even try to mimic it. It was disturbing and certainly attention setting to us both. And I just remember Greg's instincts were to put that bass boat trolling motor on about 70-pound thrust and about threw me out of the back of it. It freaked him out so bad. So he kind of parallels the bank at first, but he's starting to work himself back out toward the lake a little bit. But we probably trolled 150 feet before he got away from the bank at any significant distance. That thing paralleled us just out of sight inside the woods the whole way we trolled until he got enough distance and it finally stopped. But I never forget looking in there with my mouth hung wide open, holding onto that back seat, trying not to get thrown out of the boat. That thing hollering at us like it was, and shaking limb. There was limbs at least 10 foot up in the woods shaking. I could see the leaves shaking. So whatever was walking down the side of that bank with us, trying to run us off, was shaking limbs 10 foot up. And we got out there where he kind of had his act together and slowed it down a little, and he turned around and looked at me. I'll never forget it. Y'all allow R-rated talking here a little bit?
Keep it good. PG. Keep going.
Keep it PG. He turned around and looked at me, and I'll try to say it. I won't quote him, but I'll come close. He said, "What the blank was that?" I said, "Man, I don't know. Did we just have a Bigfoot encounter?" And he goes, "I think we did." I'll never forget it. And this was probably 6 years ago, 7, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that would never have Bigfoot on the brain. And he and I talked to him tonight. You know, he's my cousin. We spoke tonight, and we've deer hunted and fished a lot since then together still. And we still bring that day up that we can't explain it. Did I see a Bigfoot? I won't say I saw a Bigfoot, but I can't explain what hollered at us like that in some Tennessee woods, in the West Tennessee woods.
But it intrigued you enough that here you are.
Enough that here I'm sitting here with you guys today, and I met you guys, you know. And so I'm not going to say that I didn't have, you know, some interest at some point. I always liked the Monster Quest shows and things like that, but I did not have Bigfoot on the brain ever. As a matter of fact, it was always a joking thing with me with a buddy of mine. We were deer hunting. If he heard something in the woods, I was like, "Oh, it's just probably Bigfoot. Don't worry about it." Yeah. In a joking way. But it definitely put it on my mind in a serious way.
Right.
So that's my story. That's my story. So hope that was a good enough one.
It was good, man. That's what got you interested in all this jazz, and here you are.
It did, and yeah, and again, I've deer hunted all my life and been in the woods all my life, and I've never heard anything like that. So it was either a 6'8" meth cook in there trying to run us off with big lungs,
which is possible around that area.
Yeah, right. Or it was something, you know, that of that unknown thing that we know still out, that we know's out there. They just don't want to say it is, you know.
That Jamie.
Can't take him nowhere.
Nowhere.
And then I met Mark Newell and Larry Porch eventually later after all that, from interested in the subject, and so here I am today.
And we've had some interesting things happen while we're out. That's why we brought Mike on tonight. We're going to cover that second, right, Mark? We're going to do the thermal first. All right. But we got some interesting audio coming up that we're all together and experience. But we're gonna talk about a thermal hit we had one night whenever we were way back, probably a mile in, LVL, primitive camping. I think this occasion I'd slept in a tarp made in an A-frame.
You remember?
Yeah. That's what
you had a tarp over a rope. That's what you both had.
Yeah. Well, that ain't what Mark had, but we won't talk about that.
Yes, you want to talk about it.
We'll talk about it as the video plays. But we're going to play this video here so y'all can see what we're talking about. And when this happened, it was cool. I was like, Mark, we got a visitor. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. It looks just like something standing there looking around a tree. And I let him look. And he's like, man, that does look like something. So we watched it. But let's roll the, is that beautiful bean footage? Here we go, Mark. Don't be bashful. Now that's
Okay.
on. Okay.
We were about a mile and a half deep in the woods.
Mhm.
And we always give the boogers the advantage. And by that, what I mean is we will take the low ground. And we had ridges all around us. So we just feel like that the boogers are more comfortable if they're up high and they have an escape route. And we had just got through eating some deer steaks over a fire, and Larry was sitting there looking through his TK Scout, and he spotted this on the thermal.
And I didn't even cry. But it
Well,
looks
this is
just
early in
like.
your squatching too, Larry, wasn't it? Pretty early.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Right.
And it looks just like something standing there. It even looks like its arm sticking out there. Or we hope it's an arm.
Right.
But we kept watching this thing and watching it. And you can see that's Mark's little coffin tent that he hid a tarp over it.
And
But
you could see Larry climbing up the ridge. The next morning, Larry went up there to see if he could find any type of impressions or anything of what this thing could have been.
and what did Larry say? A
We
game
did,
trail.
yeah.
Plenty of them there.
Yeah, definitely. But right in that area is where the thermal hit was at. And we saw no definite foot impressions or anything, but there was a game trail that went there between the two trees where the heat signature was. So I think that weekend we stayed there 3 nights, 4 days.
Oh, yeah, 4 days and 3 nights. And it
Yeah,
was cold.
yeah,
It
It was
was,
definitely winter time. As you see,
it
there's no
was,
leaves on the tree.
yeah.
it was freezing or right at freezing or a little bit below freezing. But the reason why we're showing this is we, Larry and I and Mike also, we are so skeptical of any kind of evidence that might present itself. And so we just wanted to know whether this was an actual booger or if it was something else going on with the FLIR.
Right.
And it was like the next week, Larry called Kumbo and asked Kumbo, said, man, will them boogers just stand there for, an hour at a time or whatever and not move? And Kumbo said, yeah.
Yep.
And so we went back 2 or 3 more times and did not see nothing there with the FLIR. And we thought, well, maybe it could have been. Well, about the fourth time that we went back, the moon phase was where it was when this footage was shot, and the temperature had dropped back down to near freezing. And we were able to capture this same thing again.
Yep.
With the moon phase. I'd have to ask Shelley what the moon phase was because it's in her books. But what the moon phase was, and we know that the temperature was back around freezing. And so this was how would you say it? A false impression because of the temperature?
Yeah, and also the main thing that put off the heat like it did, there was a knot on that tree that water was in. And the water, once the temperature got below the water temperature, the water put off that heat signature. And we went several times back and it only got down to like 37, 38. But after we went back and it got below 30, that's whenever we could see the heat signature on that tree again. But we had to get the same exact conditions as that one night. And I think that night it was about 28 or so. And we finally hit a night that the temperature got close to that and we're able to see it again and went back. And I think in this video, you can actually see the knot is about knee level where I'm at to the left. Well, if you're looking at the screen to the left. But that was, I mean, it took us 2 months to ever go back and hit the right circumstances again to see that. But the majority of people, they wouldn't have went back and tried to debunk that.
And folks, I have no say-so in this because I certainly don't have the resume these two guys have. But you're not going to get these two guys ever saying, I saw Bigfoot just to get some attention on this page right here.
No.
They're going to be thorough. They're going to debunk everything because most things are not Bigfoot.
But
I'm not saying he's out there. I totally believe it.
Yeah.
But it's real easy to find a little something and then hang your hat on it.
Right. And that right there,
and that's give Bigfoot a bad name in a lot of ways. And I'm just throwing my opinion out there. But these two guys right here won't do it, and that's why I love them, because you're talking about two genuine, real dudes right here that are not in this for attention.
No,
they're looking for answers, and they'll say, "No, I was wrong," and don't mind saying it.
That's right. And we've been wrong.
Yeah, and we'll be wrong again.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Well, my job, I'm wrong all the time, but I have to be right before it counts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just in my nature.
We had Larry M. convinced.
Well, we were pretty convinced.
Yeah, we were.
Because when you're sitting out there in the middle of nowhere and you're too far away to head back towards the trucks, then it's, it was pretty real. But we just kind of sat there and laughed, didn't we, Larry? We take turns looking at it through the FLIR.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, right? I mean, at the moment, it may be real deal, right? So it's exciting.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you didn't convince yourselves right there that it is absolute. You got to be careful about the absolute thinking here in this subject.
That's for sure. Yeah. And the majority of people would have left that woods that night and said they had an encounter. They had one watch them and called it on thermal.
Absolutely.
But what I liked about Mark took my thermal and he got in that coffin tent with that tarp on it.
Here we go.
Okay.
he laid there on his belly with my thermal and he watched that ridge and watched that ridge. He ate Snickers bars and he fell asleep with a Snickers bar running down his chin and down his shirt. We woke up the next morning and he had dark stuff all over him. I'm like, dude, did you have an accident last night? And he was like, he looked at his shirt and he's like, oh no, I was eating Snickers whenever I fell asleep and I must have had one in my mouth.
That's great. Good stuff.
But anyway,
what I love about this is I know y'all's relationship was kind of new at this point still, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And all your listeners here know you two so well now that I was glad I was able to be around during those times, just when y'all met. So this was the early years for Mark and Larry.
Yeah, we were a lot more gung-ho than we are now. We done got lazy now.
That's funny. No, y'all ain't lazy.
Well, but we just wanted to show y'all this. I mean, to an average person that may have high emotions, they may have went running out of that woods that night thinking that there was a Bigfoot watching them. But like Mark said, we sat there and watched it. And our whole point of going in there was to have this situation happen. One come up on the ridge top watching us. And we thought that it worked. And it took us 2 to 3 months to go back and prove to ourselves that it was a false hit on the thermal. Just
be diligent whenever you're looking at your own evidence and be honest with yourself. That's important. I would a whole lot rather debunk my own evidence than for somebody on social media to debunk it. And
yeah. And they're just sitting there slobbering.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
Right.
And I'm not so sure they'd have been able to figure that one out. But we did.
You did. Yep. And there's too many out there that don't do that. And that's and there's some bad publicity as a result. I mean.
Well, how many people drive down the road, a gravel road, and see a tree bow, and they get up, get out, and take pictures of it, and then jump back in their truck and go to where they get reception and tell the whole wide world that they done found booger evidence. Instead of when you find that tree bow, that's when you do what a tracker does. You start doing circles until you see if you can find that next piece of evidence, and then you line them up and you go from there. You just don't jump back and head out and tell everybody of this fantastic evidence that you found. Follow up on it.
Would you quit talking about me? I'm sitting right here.
No, Mark, you were that. Mark, from day one, I knew you were that way.
Oh,
you know, Mark was that way from day one.
Yep.
Mark, you remember we thought we found that nest that time, me, you, and Stacy? Remember?
Yeah.
That tree that was laid down, and you remember? Remember that?
Yep. Yep.
None of us said it was for sure. That's absolutely where a Bigfoot nest. And you just got to be careful with that, man. It can be an adrenaline rush out there, and there's so much nothing out there. If you're a researcher, you're going to get so much more nothing than something. And when you finally get something, you're so excited about it. It's real easy to call it Bigfoot evidence. Real easy because you want it to be so bad, you know.
Yep. I
So
agree.
anyway, so good
All
job,
right.
guys, on that. Yep.
Well, the next one you were involved with.
Yeah. Now this one's different.
Oh. Now, Mark, tell the audience what me, you, and Mike did a whole summer, pretty much.
We went out and we set out recorders. And so we would set out 3 to 5 recorders. We would capture about 125 hours of audio on each recorder. And then we would go home and split them up and we would start reviewing the audio.
I can't take a lot of kudos on that, Mark. I listened to a little bit, but yeah, y'all listened to a bunch.
But while we were out and we were picking up recorders, Larry did some owl calls. But I tell you what, we actually have this on the Sawdust Beast, and I think it would be better for us to hear our own words at the time whenever we discovered this. So I just sent it to you, Larry.
You got that, Larry?
We
We were at Brokeback Ridge.
Awesome.
We were recovering the audio. Mark had sat down with a laptop to download the audio from the recorder. And I decided to do a couple of owl hoots. I did it when we got a tree knock in response, possible tree knock in response. So waited a little while. Mark was still downloading audio. It takes a little while. Me and Mike were kind of talking about the wood knock and stuff. And then I called again. And this time an owl or something answered, and it was within 100 to 75 yards from us. Had no trail on the end of the call or anything. We missed 2. We didn't have the video cameras rolling, didn't have audio rolling. But I called a 3rd time and it answered, and we did get it on video, and we also got it on audio. So Mark is running on a spectrogram, and it didn't appear as a natural owl does, but he's going to send it to a few more people and just have them check it out and see what he thinks there. But we could have possibly had some type of interaction, and we're just not positive about it.
It did appear a little bit to me like the tree knock might have been a little further back. You know, it's all theory to say, but we heard the wood knock first, and then it responded to Larry's owl call. Seemed a little closer, like maybe it had moved toward us to investigate a little closer after the wood knock. But they did both come from the same direction, the same general direction.
Right.
So, pretty neat stuff.
And it was close. You could just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It was so close, and it was like the 3rd time it did it. It probably, when you did that call that 3rd time and it answered right back, it probably zeroed in on us and it was game over.
Which is that 3rd one's the one we actually captured.
Yeah, we've already listened to it.
Right.
But we're going to want to confirm it a little bit more, other than just looking at it out here in the field.
Right.
And
and it's really neat to get it on the audio, you know. But boy, there was nothing like being here and hearing it with your ears. Right.
No doubt.
Right.
It was cool.
Yep.
Good enough.
yeah, well, you keep looking at me.
You're the director. You gotta say cut.
Say cut, because I'm sweating.
Me too. I can't see out of my glasses.
Good times.
Bunch of clowns.
Yeah.
Mark,
So,
Mr. Lee 3PO wants to know where your Fu Manchu was.
man, that was what, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Like it.
I was better looking than y'all then. I ain't no more. Yeah.
Oh,
But
that what?
Well, I was just going to say that uh,
Now he wants to talk. He didn't want to talk in that video.
I couldn't get a word in edgewise with Mike.
Yeah, with me. Yeah, yeah.
But we have the audio recording of this owl mimic. And we were so skeptical back then that I just kept looking at this, and I just, it sounded so much like an owl. But Larry can play the footage of whenever he made the owl call, and then we hear the owl mimic, and
yeah.
But what was so odd about that owl mimic is we heard that tree knock right
We did.
before
Prior.
you did that owl call, and I think that you made 3 calls, and we captured
The
it.
third one. The third one
we got the third one on here.
Yeah.
And so
And for some reason we caught mine on here too, and mine are terrible. But here we go. Y'all ready? Here we go. Oh, that's terrible. We got it that time.
Yep.
okay, I'm having to pull this up on the other computer,
Yeah.
and
It's a side-by-side comparison between my crap, a real owl, and what the other was.
yeah.
And the sad thing is, we buried this in our brains somewhere till we were just talking about it. Let me get that to the full size there. And you can see the difference between an actual owl and poor Larry trying to mimic an owl and the actual response call from whatever made that call.
Pretty different.
Yeah. If you look at the spectrogram, you will see the bar owl goes up to pretty close to 3,000, and a human voice on the spectrogram will go up to about 8,000. But I wanted to keep it all in the same, the numbers on the spectrogram. So you can see Larry's there, it's above 4,000. And then the one on the right, you will see that it is in that 400 to 600 range. And that's what we are looking for whenever we're looking for possible Bigfoot vocalizations on the spectrogram. It will be anywhere between that 4 to 900 hertz. And we just kind of blew it off because we were just so skeptical at the time. And then, I went back and I looked at this and I thought, there's no way that is an owl. You can see the difference in between the picture on the left and the picture on the right. And if you notice with the owl mimic of what we believe was a booger, there was no trill at the end of it. And that's pretty convincing to any of the audio people out there that are looking at it on the spectrogram and not seeing a trill, and it's staying, between 4 and 650 on the spectrogram. That it's no way it's an owl and no way it's a human. So,
but
what is
do you remember, Mark? We were all new squatters, and I guess squatchers, and I still am. Do you not remember us? Do you not remember us all skeptical? We were skeptical, very skeptical, and we still are to some extent. But do you not remember us all saying that didn't sound right, though?
Yeah, it didn't sound right.
We expected it to be an owl return because we were naive a little. I mean, we're thinking, well, there's an owl calling back, but he's sick. Something ain't right about that owl return. You remember that?
Yeah.
It didn't have...
And it was so close.
It was close.
Just so close to us.
I know it. But there's something we all thought wasn't right, quite right about it. Remember?
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. And owls do occasionally respond to your calls, especially if you're in their territory close enough that you do a call, they will call back. If they're breeding in the breeding season, owl will call back to you. And normally, though, it's later in the day, right at dusk or early in the morning at daylight. And then they're up all night, of course. That's why they call them night owls. But this, whatever it was, we got in close to it, and it did that tree knock, and we mimicked an owl because, it had to be looking at us, but the owl sound that I made it comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm going to mess with these guys. If it was a booger, and it just called back. So I don't know. I let Mark say what it is because he loves them spectrograms. But
I agree. But I just remember it. Something didn't sound right with it with me. And I've been deer hunting. Larry, you have too. We've been in the woods all our lives. Something wasn't right about it. No.
I agree. But
go ahead,
for
Mark.
some reason, us three decided to just forget it until
we did.
Mark and I were talking.
We walked out there assuming it was an owl having a bad day,
Yeah.
at that moment, but there's something wasn't right about it.
Right.
I see Pat from Squatch Talk. He asked a good question. And
oh, okay. I wasn't down that far.
Okay. Is the bar owl spectrogram from a different audio? Yes, Pat, it is. I use Macaulay's, which is a website that documents animal vocalizations. And that is the one that I pulled it from. And I have so many of these actual bar owls. They're prevalent here in our area, and that's exactly what they look like. It doesn't matter if they're closer to you or further away, they will still have the same frequency signature that you see there on the left that's an actual bar owl. You could go out and capture one anywhere in any part of the country, and that's what that bar owl spectrogram will look like.
All right, Mark. Susan's got a question for you.
Okay. What I can do is I can pull up the what we played while ago, and you can replay it.
I don't think she wanted to hear me do it again.
See, there's no trill on that.
Ooh.
And you see how Larry even tries to do it from knowing owls. You know, Larry tries to put the trill at the end. It stops on that.
Yep, it stopped.
It didn't have that, you know. And Larry, you even know from being in the woods so much to put that on the end of it. You know.
Yep. I didn't mean to play that again. I had two of them up there. Ooh. I need to work on my alcohol. I can't believe a gobbler returns a gobble to that crap
That's
right there.
way better than I can do, though, bro. You don't want to hear mine.
You just never hear yourself. And I'm like, woo, how does a Tom ever think it's really an owl and gobble at that? All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss about that one? Except that is some evidence we captured that is a possible booger that we just
Could not
threw
debunk,
on the back
you know?
shelf. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ain't 100% sure it is, but it's pretty well 100% sure it's not an owl. Would you say that, Mark Nebel?
I would. And I see where they're asking if we've got a real bar owl.
Right.
I don't.
We failed you, Susan. We ain't
Yeah,
got it right this second.
Do not have that pulled up.
Hey,
Yeah.
we may later put it on the Beast Facebook page as a comparison. So if you're a member of the Beast Facebook page, look for it on there. And anybody else that's interested in it, Mark Newboy, I have it up there by 11 o'clock tonight.
And I'll be snoring then.
Me too.
I spent half the day doing cows for Spencer.
That's good. But I mean, that's a lot of this. It is a lot of internet work and all that trying to match an animal to a sound. I mean, we've looked up fox calls, all kinds. We've looked up mountain lion, wolf, red wolf, timber wolf, everything. Because every time you put a howl up there, the whole internet, or not the whole internet, but at least half the internet's going to tell you captured a coyote, you captured a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And according to TWRA and everybody else, there are no wolves in this part of Tennessee. There are coyotes, and we do hear them every time we go out. But the spectrogram kind of eliminates some of that, or we think it does anyway. Mark can explain that better than me. Let's highlight Mark.
I would rather hear you stumble through it, Larry.
I just stumbled through it all I could, and I gave up. All right,
before you dump me, let me just tell you, folks. I don't think y'all need to know me to say this, and if you've been listening to Mark and Larry a while, these two guys are out trying with genuine hearts to do the right thing with this. They're not out for glory. They don't need fame from it tomorrow. So if they're throwing some stuff out there to you, they think's evidence, it's because they think it is. It's not because they need a bunch of, to be on TV show next year from it. That's not what they're looking for. You're dealing with two guys right here, and of course, I'm not out there in the woods with them like they are, but you're dealing with two genuine dudes right here that will never go, I saw something, I heard something, to get you guys to go, well, kudos to you. They're actually going to tell you the truth. And I will say that. Yeah,
well, we appreciate that, Mike, but
I can say that I can honestly say that without a doubt. So
the check's in the mail, Mike.
That's right.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm a little
steak
hungry.
Dinner later on this week.
Yeah, on a campfire, right? Campfire
right.
Saturday night, right?
That's right. All right, Mark. We've got some other footage here we want to show.
With me involved on this too?
Let's see.
You wasn't involved in this one. This one was in northern Georgia. I hope. Unless I just caught Mark off guard, and I may have, but I thought we were going to show that too. This is one instance that we were hiking back to Panther Creek Falls in Georgia, I think. And I had a action camera on my backpack strap looking backwards. I also had one on my hat. But as I was reviewing this footage, I come across this little segment here, and I'll show it to y'all. Right there. And man, I watched that thing, and I watched that thing, and it looked just like it stepped back. Stepped out and stepped back, and I was like, holy crap. I called Mark and I said, man, we caught something finally. I said, you ain't gonna believe it. I even was dumb enough to have it on my laptop and take a video of it on my phone off the laptop and send it to Mark, and I think I sent it to Eric and Kane, and they were like, now slow down and make sure you check everything out and this and that. And I'm like, oh, I will. But man, that looked so good. It just looked like it stepped out and stepped back. So for what, Mark, 2 or 3 days?
Yeah.
We couldn't figure it out. And we sent the video in raw form to Andrew Meisinger, and he run it through some video analysis stuff. And Mark, you may know more about it than me, but you're welcome to jump in anytime you want to.
Well, Andrew is fortunate enough to have some, let's just say, GOV software that he got from a family member. And so he was really able to break this down, and it's just looking at it on the video. It's like what I was saying earlier. If somebody caught this, they would be throwing it straight up on the internet and screaming, I have captured Bigfoot.
Oh, it would be on Paranormal Caught on Camera on the Travel Channel immediately.
But it looked like it moved and everything. I mean, it was convincing for sure.
So it's just really important that you are diligent when looking at this stuff. And I found signs of possible Bigfoot trackway, and you can go to our video on the Sawdust Beast page, and it's Did We See Bigfoot is the title of this video that we pulled out, and found some awesome signs in this area. And then later on, when Larry's reviewing his GoPro footage and sees this thing which appears to move back behind the tree, it's, it's like, yep, we caught him. We caught him. He's moving through the area. But you just have to be diligent whenever you're looking at this footage. And what this actually was, that was a leaf, and it was in the foreground, but it really looked like it could have been a hiker. It could have been anything that was bipedal, and stepped out, and then as Larry turned, it stepped back behind the tree. So you want to be careful. There's enough people out there putting up hoaxes as it is. There's enough people with misidentification, and that's one reason why the government don't have to sit there and say that this critter exists, because we do a pretty fine job ourselves in making mistakes.
Right.
Can I say this from my job perspective real quick?
You can.
Just keep this in mind the same way. It works the same way. When you're looking for evidence, whether it's for, professionally in a legal standpoint, court situation or whatever, from a PI perspective, I can go out on a case and I can watch somebody drive down the road and then get out of view for a little bit, and I can assume what they did when they got out of view. You know what I mean? For a minute. But you know what assuming does. And when you put that in court, and the lawyers will eat that up. So imagine that from this standpoint. It's real similar. I can really easily, try to build my case up bigger because I saw something for a minute, and then I lost sight of something for a little bit, and then make that story bigger in between what I was able to actually see with my eyes. So just be careful when you're out there. I mean, who am I to say? But be careful when you're out there doing this, because there's a lot of folks out there that have made given Bigfoot a bad name by throwing assumptions out there too much. So if you'll be vigilant, it takes a lot of patience. You're going to spend more time out there getting nothing than something. So just keep that in mind, and I'm just saying that from my professional standpoint. I've been put on the hot seat in court several times because my video was blurry, and I said in my report that they were doing this, but my video's not showing that. You know what I mean? But I might have seen it with my eyes.
He wasn't a defendant either.
That's right. That's true. So just be careful. Be careful. There's plenty of us out there. There's plenty of people in this subject that are out there, making it harder on the rest of us. So be careful.
No doubt.
That's my 2 cents.
Well, that's good advice, Mike. Even Shelley agreed with you.
Oh, really? Well, that's good if Shelley did.
That's right.
If Shelley agreed with me, then I said something right. I guess that's good.
If y'all have any questions for Mike or Mark, put them in capital letters and we'll ask them.
Larry.
No, Larry don't have any answers. I'm depleted on answers. But that last evidence, man, that was, I was sitting there watching it on my laptop, and Mark and them were amazed that I even caught it, but I was eyeballing that thing and saw it, and I was the last man in the group, so I was it. So it made sense that something stepped out to look to see where we were going and then stepped back behind the tree, but poor Andrew, he bursted that bubble. And
Yeah.
actually,
Well,
the tree that was hanging over is where the leaf was. And it looked like it went behind those other trees, but it was
well,
just angles and
well,
magic.
since I'm on my soapbox, I'll say one more thing, and then I'll shut up because I know I love. And Mark will remember this more than Larry will. There was a fella that I did some of this stuff with before, well, right about the time Mark and I were meeting too. And he had a picture captured in the toward dusk of what looked like a Bigfoot behind a stump. Everything was kind of shadowy and dark looking a little bit, and it looked kind of like the foot might be out beside of it, and it was hairy looking around what looked like was behind a stump hiding and look out from behind a stump. And they threw that out there as an absolute, as that's a Bigfoot behind that stump. It did kind of look like it. Well, not that I'm just the PI in me coming out. I went back and actually I got to go back. He and I even went back to that location at a different time of the day where the sun was shining on that stump different, and I got behind the stump, and it still appeared to be that might have been a Bigfoot based on that picture he had taken. And he wasn't taking that picture to be, to give him a little credit back when, thinking that he thought he captured one by accident. Well, it just ate on me and ate on me and ate on me, and I went back by myself at the same time later in the day. And, anyway, I was able to debunk that. And it broke my heart. And I couldn't find it in me to tell him that I did, so I never did. But I'm just saying, again, on my soapbox while we're on this subject tonight, just be careful. There are lots of folks out there making it harder on the rest of them. So be vigilant and go back again and be willing to say, no, it wasn't. It's okay to say, no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
And what Mike was talking about is this feller, it was shaped like a fire plug. And that's what this image looked like. And that's what stuck out to both me and Mike, that, wait a second, this really looks like this guy. Somehow or another, he stepped in front of that game cam, and it took his picture because it just looked like him. It was shaped like a fire plug, and it was just a red flag to us.
Yeah.
And and that's why it's so important to go back and give 100% effort into debunking your own evidence.
You'll sleep better at night if you did. You'll sleep better at night if you did.
If you know where a picture is taken, please go back and take a after picture. Just
after picture.
And maybe do it again 2 or 3 times. It's not a bad
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And make sure you go at the same time of day, same conditions and everything. Mike, you got 2 minutes to tell your scariest experience as a PI. You're on the clock.
My scariest experience?
Yes.
Well, that, of course, happened down there in Mark's neighborhood.
Well, yeah.
That's why Larry won't come to my house.
That's right.
No, not Mark's neighborhood, but not far from it. Yeah. I was sitting in Memphis on the side of a road trying to get my wits about myself, and I heard, I heard the pump of a shotgun right beside the window of my van. So, and I was asked, "What are you doing here, boy?"
Yeah.
So, and there's been a few of those. I had one happen in East St. Louis, and Chicago can get a little rough too. So yeah, I'd much rather be in the woods looking for boogers. So the bad guys not out in the woods.
That's true.
Yep.
All right. He survived, so he's still here with us.
I'm still here. Yep. It's that book I'll never write, but I probably could.
Yeah, you should. Definitely.
I ain't smart enough.
All right, we got one more piece of evidence that Mark wants to share with y'all, and it's easier just to play the video, ain't it?
Well, before you play the
All right.
video, let me give a backstory.
Don't give too much of one.
Okay. It was before this happened, and Bear and his wife Tammy took me and Shelly out to this place called Carroll County Bridge, is what we named
too
it.
much information.
And we were on that bridge, and Bear did some calls, and I'm going to tell you, there was all kind of stuff going on. And Shelly always has like a parabolic in her ear, and she could hear something moving underneath us, getting closer. And it finally moved under the bridge, and the outlaws had been going to this place for a number of years. And I know Vicky Fulcher said that she goes, I will never go back there. You talk about a place that will give you the creeps.
And Dan Ricky said we're going to die.
Yeah, he did. So we carried some people that had never been Bigfooting before to this bridge. So one of the things that I do is when I have new people is I will give each person a responsibility, whether if it's we're on the air this time, Larry. So what I will do is give everybody a responsibility. So they've got something that keeps their mind occupied. They got a job to do. And so there was quite a few of us on this bridge. So everybody had a responsibility. And we're going to play this off the Carroll County Bridge that you can find on the Sawdust Beast page. I've kind of edited it down a little bit to just beginning, and we will let JJ kind of give the backstory on what's going on. And just play that full screen, Larry.
This looks like the flare footage.
No.
It ain't?
All
right. Well, I got to get down to Memphis and get that parabolic out of Shelley's ear. That's ridiculous.
On the road of our destination, the county didn't even bother to post a sign that the bridge was out and the road was closed. We quietly exited our vehicles. Larry and Mark take the lead and find a safe way to get onto the bridge. Bear and Dan keep a follow with our guests, keeping them together, and James takes up the rear, covering our bags. Bill has his recorder on with earbuds in, listening for any kind of movement, while we are positioning ourselves in this vulnerable spot. Jack sets up off-center in the middle of the bridge and turns on his FLIR PS24 thermal. And BAM! What is that? Larry and Mark are reconning the immediate area under and around the bridge. Notice commotion around the FLIR, and with hand signals from Bear, Larry looks through his TK Scout and sees 4 or 5 human-like figures moving around on the other side of the barricade. Mark closes the gap between him and Larry, and slowly they move in that direction. Bill is monitoring for anything that might try to outflank Larry and Mark. The creatures are really moving around in the road now, and caution is starting to enter everyone's mind while the adrenaline level is increasing. Why aren't the creatures scattering off the road into the woods? This is starting to look like 2 gangs getting ready for a lockup, and both sides are holding their own ground. Larry and Mark are now just feet from the barricade, and the creatures vanish from their FLIR, but are still visible on Jack's FLIR in the middle of the bridge. What is going on?
That was pretty suspenseful, wasn't it, Larry?
It
I've got
was.
to say this. I've got to say, kudos to Shelly, man. That was incredible narrating.
That wasn't
Shelly, I got
Shelley.
all
That
due
was,
respect for you. That was great.
It wasn't Shelley. It was
That
Jennifer
was Shelly.
Jacqueline.
Who was that?
Jennifer Jacqueline Carell at this
Well,
point.
you
She just
tell
got
her that
married
was
over the summer.
no. You tell her that was awesome. She did a
It
great job.
was. She
Yeah,
just
she
heard
did.
you.
Okay, cool. It was awesome.
But it was pretty cool instance right there of a group of people seeing something all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
in the in the
Go
flare.
ahead, Mark. Go
Okay,
on.
I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to let you finish it.
All right.
What it was the county had shut down this bridge to do repairs on it. And here we had, I don't know, 10 or 12 people. 10 of them at least had never been boogering before. And Bear, had built this bridge up and the things that had happened. And Miss Vicky didn't want to be nowhere around this bridge. And we had to make a trail. We had to go kind of like off the road and come up on this bridge. And my concern was that someone would panic. I had chains set up to be the last one to come up on the bridge. And I told him, I said, I want your job to be, if somebody goes to break and run, you tackle them, because somebody will get hurt if they panic and they try to get off this bridge, because the road was cut off and we had to, go into the woods and back up on top of this bridge. And I said, somebody will get hurt. So when Jack set up his FLIR, all of people were doing their jobs, and then all of a sudden Jack says, I see something. And so people start coming over and looking at the FLIR, and sure enough, they, you're seeing a thermal image in front of you. And so what did you do, Larry?
Well, me being Larry and not exactly intelligent, Larry started moving toward them because he wanted to see them better.
I'd have done the same thing, Larry. Larry, I'd done the same thing.
Yeah, everybody was saying, Larry, don't go up there. Don't go up there. And I'm like, no, I'm here to see them. I want to see them. And so I start moving forward. And as I move forward, one of the aluminum signs on the end of the bridge, it's probably a 4x3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big sign. As I'm moving toward them, I can see them in my TK Scout, but whenever I get to the side of that barrier, that sign, it disappears. There's nothing there. And I'm like, Mark, come here. I'm like, dude, there ain't nothing there. And we go back, and Jack and them are still talking about seeing them, and they're moving and all this. And I'm like, man, I back up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I see them again. And I walk forward a little bit, gone.
Wow.
So I'm like, Mark, there ain't nothing there. They're seeing a reflection or something. I don't know. And Mark looks at me and says, well, you going to go tell Bear? And I said, nope. I put that flare back up and started looking again. And then Mark went and told Bear. So as great as that footage was, we could have easily got excited or scared and left that bridge. And there were 10 people there, 12. There'd have been 12 eyewitnesses that we had 4 or 5 boogers sitting there running across the road.
All right.
But once Mark told Bear, everybody calmed down and we started thinking. And it was actually, they were standing between 2 of these aluminum signs with a reflective side facing them on the back and the front. and that thermal was reflecting back and hitting that other sign. And every time everybody moved on that bridge, that thermal was catching it, and it looked just like something crossing that road. And if I hadn't have been dumb enough to walk toward them to see better, we wouldn't have really known. I don't guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as convincing as that looked on the thermal, it was nothing, unfortunately. But, do you want to tell about anybody puking or anything? I'm kidding. Now, emotions were high because some people had never been out before, and taking that at point blank, I mean,
and it wasn't that far in front of us. I mean, it wasn't 25 feet in front of us, and you're seeing, these thermal hits of what looked like, it looked like they were nervous and they were getting ready to come our way. And so, I mean, the anxiety level was through the roof on that. Yep. And so that, it goes, and I'm glad James was there to be able to stop anybody from running, because having responsibilities when you're out it's so important, and it keeps your mind occupied on what you're supposed to be doing, because somebody could have got hurt. If somebody would have turned around and broke and ran, it'd been that old trip to the hospital, I guarantee you.
No doubt about it. But the whole basis of this show has been, I mean, no matter how good the evidence is, don't let yourself be convinced that it is a Bigfoot. And also, just don't throw it away and think it's nothing, because you could have something. Do due diligence on all your evidence, whether it's video, whether it's a picture, whether it's audio, whatever it may be. So if y'all have any other questions, put them in all caps and we'll answer what we can, because that's all the evidence we got. I know we've got others that we've debunked. We just don't have it to present here, but we could talk about it, but I don't know.
Well, I would like to say, while we're waiting on questions, that Bama Murdoch called me today, and he's headed down to Alabama to interview some witnesses down there. And this is where he grew up at, and he's going to be looking for a place for us to go in there and to do a little research. David, I will give me a little bit of time, because
I think he was wanting you to mimic one.
Oh, you're the owl caller.
I retired though.
Larry is a good caller. He really is. And
I wasn't all that long ago. I went out with you guys at LBL one night. We didn't really have a whole lot of luck, remember? Wasn't that all that long. Larry is really good at calling. Let's hear it, Larry. Come on.
I can't right now.
Pretend you're out there.
Real weak, and I got
Pretend you're out there, Larry.
Throat.
Pretend you're out there. And
hey, Larry M wants to see that thermal footage again.
You'll be to pull it back up for you?
Yeah, we'll play it again for Larry. And like I said, you can go to Sawdust Beast channel. You just have to look at the video tab and scroll down past all the podcasts, and all our old videos are on there. And
okay.
They're really some good stuff.
Okay.
Really
can I talk now, Larry?
I guess it's your show. Go ahead.
One thing that I did to the Sawdust Beast channel yesterday was I created some playlists. So like all the podcasts are on one joint playlist, and then I created a second one of our field evidence videos. And so it will be, you can go to the playlist on Sawdust Beast and you can scroll down and see all the different evidence that we have found out in the field. And then I created a third one because it's one of my favorites. And I titled it Dan Ricky's Oklahoma Bigfoot Stories.
Those are great.
And it's 6 videos of Dan telling stories from the Indian reservation in Oklahoma, and they are fantastic. They are fantastic. They're must listen to.
Does Dan? Hey, I gotta ask you. Does Dan allow you to show that picture that he
No.
got? He don't allow that. Okay. Incredible. Well, yeah. Okay.
He'll send it to you in Messenger, though.
Okay.
He's
I got
watching, or he was.
I was
All
just
right,
curious.
we're going to play a thermal one more time, and then Cans, I'll get to your question there.
On the road of our destination, the county didn't even bother to post a sign.
All right, we're going to fast forward that a little bit.
I spent a lot of time making that
The
suspenseful,
county didn't
Larry.
even bother to post a sign that the bridge was out and the road was closed. We quietly exited our vehicles. Larry and Mark take the lead and find a safe way to get onto the bridge. Bear and Dan keep a follow with our guests, keeping them together, and James takes up the rear, covering our backs. Bill has his recorder on with earbuds in, listening for any kind of movement, while we are positioning ourselves in this vulnerable spot. Jack sets up off-center in the middle of the bridge and turns on his FLIR PS-24 thermal. And BAM! What is that? Larry and Mark are reconning the immediate area under and around the bridge. Notice commotion around the FLIR, and with hand signals from Bear, Larry looks through his TK scout and sees 4 or 5 human-like figures moving around on the other side of the barricade. Mark closes the gap between him and Larry, and slowly they move in that direction. Bill is monitoring for anything that might try to outflank Larry and Mark. The creatures are really moving around in the road now, and caution is starting to enter everyone's mind while the adrenaline level is increasing. Why aren't the creatures scattering off the road into the woods? This is starting to look like 2 gangs getting ready for a lockup, and both sides are holding their own ground. Larry and Mark are now just feet from the barricade, and the creatures vanish from their FLIR, but are still visible on Jack's FLIR in the middle of the bridge. What is going on?
And there you have it. I wish we'd have showed the actual bridge, but it is in the video. So go watch the video to get the full spectrum of what was going on. That's the best thing to do.
She's
All
still
right.
amazing in her narration.
Yep. Mark, any video of Larry eating chili off the ground? I think Eric took a picture over his shoulder. I think he posted it somewhere. But I guess that's it for tonight. Larry, what kind of rod and reel do you use? Man, I use a spin cast. I use a bait caster. Some are Daiwa, some are Shimano, all kinds of stuff. I'll use a cane pole if I have to, Joe. How big was the signs? Mark, show them how big the signs were.
You can actually go watch the video and you can see Dan thinks that they were about 5 by 5. They were pretty good sized signs.
Yep.
And they were just posted there so that like bridge closed and it was
Highway
on
signs, kind of. The
both
part-
sides of the
DOT
sign.
DOT sign.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Something
What'd you
happened.
do, Larry?
I don't know. It looks like I got a low internet signal or something. I don't know. Crazy. Technology.
Joe thinks you use a zip code 33.
I have.
I
Yeah.
have many times. Yeah. Caught fish on them,
808.
hadn't you? I've
Yes,
caught fish
sir.
on them, hadn't you? Yeah, plenty of them.
I've caught a few that ripped the gears out of them.
Right.
Oh, me. All right, folks. I think we don't have any more questions. I guess we explained it too well. I don't know.
Get your
But
boring guest here.
I don't think it's it. Mark got the blues. Yep, he's always got the blues. But anyway, Mike, we appreciate you coming on here, and we're going to have you on here again at some point.
Well, I love you two guys. You know that. So y'all know that. And I hope I see y'all Saturday night, maybe.
Yes, sir. Don't hang up. We'll discuss that here in a second.
Yep.
If
All
Mark
right.
don't fall asleep. All right. Well,
Thanks,
we're going
buddy.
to wish y'all a good night, and we're going to say, if you get any videos, audio, pictures, please go back and test all you can on the pictures and the video, and use the spectrogram for audio. What else you want to say about audio? All right, nothing. That's good enough. Mark's ready for bed. All right, folks. We'll see y'all Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We got a great guest lined up. We hope to see y'all on Sawdust Beast YouTube channel for Beast TV. Thanks again, Mike, and hold on. Don't go nowhere.
Thanks for tolerating me.
Uh-oh.